WebEx link. A very warm welcome to all panelists and participants. I welcome you for today's webinar on uh, the art of becoming a successful team leader. Founder and Managing Director, M Caliber Technologies, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller book, Leading, Motivate, and Motivating Global Teams, Integrating Offshore Centers and the Head Office, published by Taylor and Francis USA, is already on board with us. As per schedule, we shall be starting with today's webinar sharp at 6. Meanwhile, I hope we are audible and visible to all our participants, and you can access the chat window from whichever device you are connected with us through for this event. The chat window shall be the mechanism through which we shall be communicating through this event. So kindly ensure that whichever device you are connected with us through, you can easily access the chat window. As per schedule, we shall be starting with today's event sharp at 6 p.m. So meanwhile, it is time for tea and networking. Any of your colleagues, etc., who plan to join us for this event from the YouTube link, I request you to kindly tell them that the YouTube link is only for knowledge dissemination purposes. So no link for feedback at the end of the session shall be shared through the YouTube link. So all such participants are requested to again join in through the WebEx link. A very warm welcome to all the participants. Good evening, Bhatia sir. Welcome to the webinar. How are you, sir? Sir,
Yeah, I'm fine.
great, sir. Very good evening and a very warm welcome to all dear participants. I welcome you all to today's webinar on the art of becoming a successful team leader for global organizations. Expert for the session today, Mr. Vimal Kumar Khanna, founder and managing director, M Caliber Technologies, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller book, Leading and Motivating Global Teams, Integrating Offshore Centers, and the head office published by Taylor and Francis, USA, has already joined us. As per schedule, we shall be starting with the webinar sharp at 6. Meanwhile, it is time for tea and networking. So I hope all my participants who have joined us for this webinar are enjoying tea at their home in a safe environment. Whatever device all dear participants you are connected to, I request you to kindly ensure that you can access the chat window on that particular device, because the chat window shall be the mechanism through which we shall be connected with you during this webinar. So kindly ensure that you can access the chat window. You can post your details, your affiliation on the chat window so that we know who are there with us today for this event. And you can ensure that you can easily join us.
So good evening to everyone.
Good evening, sir. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Vimal, can you hear me? Khanna Saab. So welcome you to the program.
Namaste.
Namaste and thank you so much. Bhatia Saab, how are you?
I'm very fine.
Good. Khanna Saab, you are most welcome. This is our webinar series which we are running since last May 2020. And maybe every week, alternate week, or with some gap in between, we are continuing this. And Professor H.S. Bhatia is one of such panelists who keeps on joining right from day one of this launch of webinar series. So how is Bangalore, Bhatia sir?
Bangalore is fine, except outside little problems are there. But we are at home. We are.
Take care. It's important to be taken care.
Yeah. This time in the second wave, the problems are little more here.
Second wave was more deadly, more disturbing, and lost many near and dears. And
I think it is like
Subramaniam sir, good evening to you. Professor Subramaniam is the former chairperson of IEEE Delhi section.
Yeah.
Dr. Ritika, we will start sharp at time, right?
Yes, sir. A very good evening, all distinguished panelists and participants. I welcome you all to today's webinar on the art of becoming a successful team leader for global organizations. Our expert for today's webinar, Mr. Vimal Kumar Khanna, founder and managing director, M Caliber Technologies, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller book, Leading Motivating Global Teams, Integrating Offshore Centers and the Head Office, published by Taylor and Francis, USA, has already joined us for this session. As per schedule, we shall be starting with today's session sharp at 6 p.m. Meanwhile, it is time for tea and networking. I request all my participants who have joined us for today's session to kindly ensure that whichever device they are connected with us through for today's session, they can easily access the chat window, because the chat window shall be the mechanism through which we shall be communicating with you during the session. All information regarding the feedback link at the end of the session would be shared through the chat window. And any questions you have from our expert for today, you can even write that in the chat window. I shall be facilitating you by asking them to our expert towards the end of the session. So dear participants, kindly ensure whatever device you are connected with through, you can easily access the chat window. Few more minutes to go. As per schedule, we shall be starting with the session sharp at 6.
Further, there are three 3 forthcoming webinars which have been notified and is open for registration. So the link of that registration link, old participants already know. For new participants, Dr. Ritika will be sharing. So, and those 3 webinars are on 12th June, 19th June, and 22nd June. So meanwhile, you can take tea at your home, keep networking, and keep registering for the forthcoming webinars so that without fail, you receive the login credentials. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Subrata sir. Welcome to today's webinar.
Professor Subrata sir, good evening to you. You are not audible to us, Subrata sir. Dr. Ritika, is Subrata sir audible to you?
Subrata sir is not connected to you. I think his audio is still connecting.
I see. Okay.
Good evening, Subrata sir. Am I audible? A very good evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. I welcome you all to today's webinar on the art of becoming a successful leader for global organizations. Our expert for today's webinar, Mr. Vimal Kumar Khanna, founder and managing director, M Caliber Technologies, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller book, Leading and Motivating Global Teams, on Integrating Offshore Centers and the Head Office, published by Taylor and Francis USA, has already joined us. As per schedule, we shall be starting with the webinar sharp at 6 p.m. Meanwhile, it is time for tea and networking. I hope all my participants are enjoying tea at their home in a safe environment. Our upcoming webinars are already live at our website, and I have shared the link for the same in the chat window. So all dear participants who have connected with us for today's webinar, you can also register for our upcoming webinars by going to a particular link that has been shared in the chat window. This would also check if the chat window is accessible on your devices. In case the chat window is not accessible on your devices, I request the room is still open, so you may disconnect and reconnect through another device. The chat window is important because at the end of this webinar, we shall be sharing the feedback link for your certificate of participation generation through this chat window. So kindly ensure that the chat window is accessible to you. And when you fill the feedback form, fill your details carefully, because whatever details you will fill, the same would go reflect into your certificate of participation. So a very warm welcome to all distinguished panelists and participants. In a few minutes from now, we shall be starting with today's webinar on the art of becoming a successful team leader for global organization. So, am I audible?
Dr. Ritika, are you able to hear me clearly? Because your voice is breaking.
Okay, sir. I would change my device. Am I clearly audible now, sir?
Yeah, it's better than earlier. But are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. You are audible clearly now.
Okay, fine.
Subrata sir, am I clearly audible?
Yes, yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Madaji and others who are present.
Good evening. Good evening, Subrata sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just one more minute to go, dear participants, and we shall be starting with today's webinar. Sir, can we start with the webinar? Huda sir?
Yeah, Dr. Vidya, please start.
Yes, sir.
Please start, Dr.
Vimal sir, can we start?
Yeah, we can start now.
Thank you, sir. A very good evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BPI CAM, in association with Computer Science Chapter of IEEE Delhi Section, Consultants Network Affinity, CNA Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Inter-Society Relations, IRS Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi Section, Industrial Relations and Site Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi Section, with the Associations of Computer Society of India, SAFA Society, ISTE Delhi Section, and IETE Delhi Center, welcomes you all to this webinar on the art of becoming a successful team leader for global organizations. Ginny Rometty, CEO of IBM, once said, one of the most important things for any leader is to never else define who you are, and you define who you are. I never think of myself as being a woman CEO of this company. I think of myself as a steward of a great institution. This quote by a great leader simply defines how the thinking of a leader can pave the way for success of their organization and its members. Today's webinar is aimed to discuss the various techniques to be applied by senior professionals in offshore development centers of global organizations to succeed as team leaders. Techniques are being suggested for team leaders in offshore development centers to convince the head office management to offshore core and complex projects to their teams instead of being offshored mostly peripheral projects as is the norm in many global companies. And then be able to attract, hire, motivate team members to successfully deliver on these projects. Further, currently senior professionals in development centers do not rise to global top positions of the company like global VP engineering, CT, CEO, etc. So techniques will be suggested for global career growth of these professionals, like the new skills to be learned, strategic roles and responsibilities to be handled beyond managing projects, to be groomed for handling global top roles, getting higher exposure to head office strategies, activities, despite being based in the offshore development center, and getting a fair assessment and selection process for reaching global top positions. I will first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. I would first welcome Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, Chairperson, Consultants Network Affinity, CNA Group, and former Chairperson, IEEE Delhi Section. I would request Subrata sir to kindly commence this session with his welcome address.
Thanks. Audio.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very welcome to our 10th, probably this webinar in this year. There is a lot of echo actually, but let me finish actually as quickly as possible. Definitely, this is a good topic, and a lot of young participants I will expect to learn from a professional like Mr. Bimal Khanna. And to be successful, if we as Indians can occupy various important positions in global organizations. That's why today, lot of IEEE organizational units along with IET, CSI, IST, Safa Society and other organizations have assembled on the BBI CAM platform to organize such event. In fact, it was proposed 2 months back, and after a lot of, what should I say, discussions going on, as I see with Professor Hoda and Mr. Khanna, we could ultimately organize this on today. And I hope all the participants will get the opportunity to listen to Mr. Khanna and get the tips actually. And through question answer session, please try to get clarified your doubts and other things so that you take proper opportunity of attending this webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Professor Emin Huda, Director, Bharti Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management, to address the participants with his inspiring words.
Good evening to everyone. I take this opportunity to welcome Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, sir, the present chairperson of Consultants Network Affinity Group and the former chairperson of IEEE Delhi Section. Professor Subramaniam, the former chairperson of IEEE Delhi Section. Professor Bhatia from Bangalore, the very senior person in Institution of Electronics and Telecom Engineers. And my dear friends, a very important guest today, my very honored speaker, Mr. Bimal Khanna ji. And all the participants from different parts of the country who are attending this webinar in WebEx, also the participants who are attending this program on YouTube. Nowadays, the participants have developed a habit, those participants who do not need certificate, to watch it on YouTube. But my dear friends, if you are watching it on YouTube, please be informed that you will not be in a position to get certificate, and later on, please do not bother us for getting certificate, because our system has not been configured to give you certificate if you watch this program on YouTube. So there is a possibility to enter in WebEx room. You may always log out from YouTube and enter into WebEx. So thank you so much to all the participants from different parts of the country and abroad. In fact, the topic of today's program is very important. I always advocate that technically, if people are sound, they can develop and deliver the product. But managerially, if you are not sound, you cannot bring your business. You cannot lead your team. You cannot ensure that you can retain your customers. This today's program is related to that. Dr. Ritika and Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay has already given you enough background in this topic. And without giving any other background of this topic, I would like to say only one aspect of managing a team. There are multiple dimensions of managing a team. And today we have invited Mr. Bimal Khanna, who has written a book available at Amazon, is considered as one of the bestseller book in this particular subject. And there are multiple dimensions. I am sure he will be deliberating, and that will be a benefit to each one of us. One of the important dimension is communication. How are you going to communicate with your team? And when you are communicated with your team, how unambiguous you are in terms of communicating. And that's how, as a student of computer science, I always connect this communication with the artificial intelligence subject. And I say that what to say, normally in computer science, what we claim that from symbol, we start in entire processing, data processing system. When symbol is processed, it becomes data. When data is processed, it becomes information. When information is processed, it becomes knowledge. When knowledge is processed, it becomes intelligence. And when intelligence is processed, it becomes wisdom. And this pyramid, which starts from symbol, goes till wisdom. This pyramid is considered as a knowledge pyramid, right? So considering this knowledge pyramid, the top three elements of the bottom three elements of the pyramid are basically symbol, data, and information. The top three elements are, the top one is wisdom. The next, the second last from the top is basically intelligence, and the third last from the top is knowledge. So the importance of communicating with the team lies on the upper three levels, and that's how in managerial domain you are at the uppermost level in your organization. So knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom, and that's how I claim that what you say is your knowledge will enable you to understand what you should say, while as intelligence will enable you to understand how you should say, whereas the wisdom will enable us to understand that when to say. So what to say, how to say, when to say. What to say is empowered by our knowledge base. When to say is, sorry, how to say is empowered by our intelligence base, and when to say is empowered by our wisdom. And that's how a great poet has said that कौन सी बात कहाँ कैसे कही जाती है, कौन सी बात कहाँ कैसे कही जाती है, ये सलीका हो तो हर बात सुनी जाती है. यही आज का वेबिनार है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, कि हमें अपनी टीम से कैसे कम्युनिकेट करना है, so that we should become a successful managers, we should become a leader of a global team. And that I'm sure with a kind of learned speaker who will be talking and enlightening us will be of immense benefit to every one of us. All of us know that it is a corona time. Fortunately, it is coming down, but this second wave of corona has been more deadlier than the first wave and ever earlier. So all of us are required to take precaution, and that's how we are meeting. We are continuing webinar series, but from the distance. 3 more webinars have also been notified. First is immediate next is on 12th of June. Next to next is on 19th of June. And then the third one is on 26th of June. I request to all of you, those who have not registered, please register on the website for those webinars so that you can get information link on the information and link on the right time. And thank you so much with this note कि इस वक्त कोरोना का माहौल बहुत खराब है और हमें बाहर निकलने से बचना चाहिए, ज्यादा काम घरों से करना चाहिए. पिछले 2 हफ्ते पहले ही मैंने 2 मिसरे कंपोज किए हैं, उसके साथ आपसे विदाई लूंगा कि नाजुक है वक्त जरा संभल के रहिए, नाजुक है वक्त जरा संभल के रहिए, नाजुक है वक्त जरा संभल के रहिए, जब तक न हो बहुत जरूरी घर के बाहर ना निकलिए. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, but stay vibrant. Keep learning despite disruptions all around us. That is the motto. That is the USP. That is the objective of conducting these webinars. So thank you so much, my dear friends. Over to you, Dr. Ritika.
Thank you, sir. I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker, Mr. Vimal Kumar Khanna, founder and managing director, Caliber Technologies, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller book, Leading and Motivating Global Teams, Integrating Offshore Centers and the Head Office, published by Taylor and Francis, USA. Vimal Kumar Khanna sir is the founder and managing director of Caliber Technologies. He has over 3 decades of industry experience and has won multiple international honors for his contributions to the management and technology domains. He is listed in the Marquis Who's Who in the World and is also the honorary editor of IEEE Communications, the official global publication of the IEEE Communication Society. His sole authored papers have also been published in the leading global referred journals, magazines, and conferences. He is also a frequent speaker at Project Management Institute, PMI Global Congress, North America, EMEA, and APAC. He is also an invited contributing author to PMI publications and has also acted as a source for multiple articles of PM Network magazine, the official global publication of the PMI. He has published in the complete gamut of management topics, such as suggesting innovative project management, techniques for managing complex projects involving large teams, managing talent in offshore centers, achieving customer satisfaction in service projects, dealing with negative bosses and toxic workplace environments, managing challenges in leading and motivating small teams, people management skills for managers at various levels of organization hierarchy, etc. He has held leadership roles in a range of global leading companies, product development companies, service companies, large multi-million dollar companies, tier 1 VCs, funded startups, etc. He has also handled a large range of activities in these companies in his long career, such as heading and running offshore centers, general management, project management of complex projects with large teams, people management, technical leadership, business development for winning service projects, budgeting, customer interaction, etc. I welcome you today to this session, sir, and would now request you to kindly enlighten the House.
Thank you, Dr. Ritika, Professor Hoda, Dr. Sugata Mukhopadhyay, and Dr. Uttam. So I'll share the screen and we can get started. You are able to hear me clearly?
Yes, sir, you're clearly audible.
Okay, good evening, all participants. So give me a moment and just share the screen.
Yes, sir.
So, Dr.
Yes, sir.
Ritika, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
I think it's stuck. Just a minute. Huh? Let me try again. It is stuck.
So you're sharing your screen. It is now completely visible.
It's visible now. Let me try again because just let me try once again because right now I'm showing the complete computer screen. So there was some issue. Let me try that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let me see if the pages are moving.
Yes, sure, sir.
I don't know why the pages are not moving. Just a minute.
Sir, I suggest you can share your PPT itself, and then you can start the slideshow. So you will be able to control the PPT with the arrow keys.
No, I did understand. What do I do? Because right now I'm showing the PPT, but page up and page down are not working.
Uttam, I think, Khanna sir, you have to first stop sharing and
Okay.
then get familiar with the different buttons. and then start sharing it. And as Dr. Ritika said, first do not put it in slideshow mode. Just open your PPT and share PPT. Then you can take control of buttons, and then you can start clicking on slideshow mode.
Okay, yes.
Uttam, please take care and help us.
Yes, sir.
And let me try again. Okay. Yeah, it's working now. Okay, let me start. Okay. So I would be discussing the art of becoming a successful team leader for global organizations. When I say global organizations, I'm discussing the offshore development centers or the ODCs of the global companies. So the presentation is an excerpt from my book that Dr. Ritika talked about. The book has got PMI global recognitions, except featured in PMI Global Magazine PM Network, except presented at PMI Global Congress. My book interview is scheduled on PMI's PM podcast and multiple excerpts featured on PMI's projectmanagement.com. The topics we'll cover: how to win core projects for the ODC, the need for deserving ODC employees to reach the global top roles of the parent organization, the constraints to the global career growth of ODC employees, how to groom the ODC employees for global top positions, and how to have a fair selection process that gives opportunity to ODC employees to reach global top positions. And finally, I give a warning that the organization should not create a quota for ODC employees in global top positions, because that can create problems. So global companies have augmented the teams in the global head office HO with the ODC teams. We all know that ODCs are very strong and capable teams, but in a number of organizations, ODCs are offloaded mostly peripheral projects, and the potential of ODC teams is not fully realized. So since highly capable employees exist both in the HO and the ODC, the company must treat them on equal terms. The global company must give full opportunity to the ODC employees to reach the global top levels, even the CEO positions. But unfortunately, in most of the global companies, only the HO employees rise to the top purely by virtue of their location. Since they are based in the HO, they are located close to the top management, the HO product management, and key customers, and that benefits them to reach the global top positions. So the first requirement we'll discuss is that the ODC should execute core projects similar to the projects being executed in the HO to train the ODC professionals for global top position roles. So how to win the core projects? The ODC management, when I talk about ODC management, it can be project leaders, team leaders, project managers, engineering directors, or the ODC head. So they should highlight their team capabilities to the HO management to convince them to offload core projects to the ODC. They can do this by sharing the profiles of their senior technical and management employees and highlighting their expertise and experience in core product development projects and complex projects. Assuming these employees have not worked on core projects within the ODC, but still they might have worked on such projects in their previous companies. So you should highlight that in their profiles. Further, you can highlight the fact that good expertise professionals exist in the industry in the vicinity of your ODC, and they can be attracted to join the ODC for core projects. So when you share this information, the HR management will gain confidence that the ODC teams can execute core projects either themselves or by hiring industry professionals from the nearby companies. Another thing that the ODC management should do is that they should work closely with the HR management to get advanced information on upcoming core projects. Like you can work closely with the HR product management team to understand from them that what are the new products being planned by the company. Then once you have this detailed information, you should prepare your ODC teams for winning such projects. So you should learn about, your team should learn about the core features of these upcoming products. You should train and groom the teams in products business domains, and then you should train the teams in technologies for implementing core features of this product. And finally, you should develop prototypes of the product using the above knowledge. So now when the HR top management, like the VP engineering, decides to allocate the project activities for new product development among the HO and ODC teams, then the ODC management should highlight this expertise developed by the ODC teams in developing core features. Then the HO management would compare the capabilities of the ODC teams and HO teams, and then they will decide to offload core features of the project to the team with higher capability to deliver. So since you have shown your team's capability to them to develop core features, including by showing the prototype, they will get good faith in you, and a large number of core features will be offloaded to the offshore center. So our experience has been that generally 50% of the core features are offloaded to the HO and 50% to ODC. So it was very fair in that sense. Because you just be aware that HO management is not offloading core features to HO teams because they're biased. They are not offloading core features to your teams because they doubt your capabilities. If you are able to get through this problem, they are definitely going to offload features to you because they just want the success of the project. However, even if you offload core product features to the ODC, there could be some constraints. Even for developing prototypes, you may incur high costs if high-end standard hardware and software tools need to be acquired for the product. The prices of software and hardware tools from global vendors are similar across the OTC countries and HO countries. But unfortunately, the way global companies work is that they decide the overall OTC budget, including the hardware and software resources budget for the engineering teams as a whole, and then that budget is much lower than the HO budget. Because the core reason for starting the ODC was to reduce the cost of the company. So with this limited budget, you have difficulty to purchase high-end resources to develop prototypes and develop core products. So the solution to this problem is that the ODC management should raise this issue with the HO management and convince them to decouple the budget allocation for acquiring hardware and software resources from the rest of the OTC budget. There should be a single budget head for acquiring engineering resources for global engineering division as a whole, including both the HO and the ODC. If that is the case, then both the locations can acquire high-end resources to develop core products. The other important requirement for the ODCs is that their senior and deserving employees should get an opportunity to reach the global top roles. The global top management of the company decides the company's strategies. So, for its own good, the global company must have most capable employees in the global top roles who can decide the right strategies and set the directions of the company. The global company's own interests would be harmed if less capable HO employees rise to the global top positions purely because of their location advantage as compared to highly capable OTC employees. So they can make wrong decisions, these HO employees. So if deserving OTC employees don't rise to the global top positions, that can have multiple negative impacts to the global company. There is a potential revenue loss to the global company since top management team is not strong. Further, these deserving and senior ODC employees will become demoralized because they know that they are as capable as their HO counterparts but are still not rising to global top positions. So once they are demotivated, that will negatively impact their output and they might even quit the ODC. So since these senior employees are the key employees of the company, that would badly impact the projects and the deliverables of the ODC. So the ODC management should convince the HO management to give opportunity to the ODC employees to reach global top position. So they should tell the HO management that if only the most capable employees across all locations of the company and the top management, then they can make decisions leading to much higher revenues for the global company. Further, if deserving ODC employees reach the global top positions, since they are representing ODC in parallel to being in the global top position, they can make decisions to offload large projects to the ODC. In fact, I would like to clarify a question that generally comes when I present this. The question was that would these employees have to move to the HO? The answer is no. if you are a truly global company, the position can move to the ODC. These employees don't have to move to HO and change their location. So if these people decide to offload and convince the company to offload large projects to ODC, that would result in higher cost saving for the company as a whole. Further, these ODC employees who would reach the global top roles would then be motivated to deliver even better than they have been doing so far. And another positive impact would be if the rest of the ODC employees, when they see their counterparts and their seniors reaching the global top roles, they would be motivated to work to achieve similar goals, and the overall ODC output would improve. But there are some constraints preventing the global career growth of the ODC employees. The activities being performed in the ODC don't prepare the employees for the global top roles. Since they are based in the ODC, they are playing limited roles with limited knowledge as compared to the HO employees. As I discussed earlier, core product development and projects are generally be executed in the HO, and the ODC is offloaded peripheral projects like adding simple features to products, maintenance or legacy products. So in the first section, I've already covered how to address this issue and get core projects offloaded to the ODC. Okay. The further constraint is that the top management of the company handles many strategic responsibilities. They decide the right strategies and make the right decisions for the future of the company as a whole. If it's a product development company, the global top management decides the new potentially successful products to be developed. If it is a services company, then they will decide the new business domains in which to invest, in which the company can win high revenue services projects from the clients. So the ODC employees need to gain this requisite knowledge if they have to play the top management role. The ODC employees must learn about the company's existing strategies concerning its products and services. They should develop deep insight to company's core products and services domains. Then they should also be able to get the requirements and understand the requirements of key and high revenue generating customers. And further, if they are developing products, they must get a deep understanding of the offerings of similar products of the competition to be able to develop better products. So to gather all this knowledge, the ODC employees need to work closely with many entities in the global company. So they need to work closely with the top management who are based in the HO to comprehend the thought process behind deciding the company's current strategies. They need to work closely with the marketing teams, again who are based in the HO, to get exposure to products markets. They also need to work closely with the global product management, who again are based in the HO, to understand key customer requirements and offerings of the competition. They need to interact closely with the key customers who are generally based in the country of the HO. Unfortunately, the ODC employees are at distance from all these HO entities, and hence they cannot interact regularly to gain such knowledge. So the solution to this problem is to groom the ODC employees for global top roles. The ODC management should convince the HO management to mentor and train the senior and deserving ODC employees on company strategies, products, and the product markets. And the HO management should offload more complex activities to allow these senior ODC employees to hone their skills. They should offer slowly increasing responsibilities beyond product development or project management to these senior employees. And they should create opportunities for these ODC employees for closer interaction with the HO top management, the product management, and key customers. So the problem is the problem of the location. The ODC employees need to work closely with the HO entities to gain strategic knowledge. They need to work closely with the top management, HO product management, HO marketing, and key customers. They may need to interact regularly with them, including face-to-face meetings. Obviously, this presentation was made before all this COVID problems, but the things are going to improve. They won't remain the same. COVID is going to go away. Then they are based in a different country. ODC employees are based in a different country. It's difficult to meet this objective of meeting HO employees. It's not practical to base the ODC professionals in the HO for long duration or schedule frequent travel to meet these objectives, because then the whole reason of having an ODC would be lost if the ODC employees are based in the HO for 6 months duration or 7 months duration. So what we are suggesting is that you should plan intelligent short-term assignments of these ODC employees to HO that allow them to interact for short duration with all these HO entities, but still gain strategic knowledge to prepare for top roles. So in the book, I've given a case study where we made a senior ODC professional go to the HO for 3 weeks duration for making a decision along with the product management and marketing to acquire a company with some technical know-how. So there he interacted with the marketing, with the top management, with the product management, and learned about the company's technologies, company's own products, and the company to be acquired, and then made a decision. So that was good enough knowledge for him to gain the requisite knowledge to reach the global top position. And I'll discuss the case study at the end of the presentation, how we were selected to global top position. Now, another important part is that the company must decide a fair assessment and selection process to select the right employees for the global top roles. While deciding the assessment process, they should take into consideration the differences in the working within the HO and the ODC. There should be unbiased performance assessment norms across the HO and ODC employees to decide who reaches the global top role. The selection parameter must not include achievement on activities that can only be performed within the HO. Typically, the selection committee for selecting for such top roles consists of company senior management members. The committee composition could have issues. The problem with most of the global companies with ODCs is that the overall division heads, like the engineering VPs, are based in the HO. So the engineering VP would have engineering directors and managers and architects reporting to him both in the HO and the ODC. So all of these belong to him. So that VP might be treating the employees in his team across HO and ODC equally. So the top management may assume that the VP, since he is in the committee to select the top management people, he will present the case of the ODC employee justly and fairly in the selection meeting, and so the company might decide that there is no need to have any ODC member, management member in the committee. However, there is a saying that not only must justice be done, it must also be seen to be done. Assuming the VP is totally fair and just to the cause of the ODC employees, but the ODC employees in general still perceive that the VP is belonging to the HO location. So they won't feel comfortable with the decision being made by committee having no ODC members and having only HO members. So let's assume that in the selection process, the VP puts across and argues the ODC employee's case strongly, but the employee, if he is not a strong candidate, he may still lose and may not rise to the global top role. The ODC candidate and the other ODC employees may assume the decision went against this person since the committee lacked an ODC member. They would assume that an ODC member in the committee would have raised the case of this employee much strongly to win a favorable decision. So, the selection committee must have members from the ODC who can ensure fair assessment of ODC candidates against the HO candidates. Not only a senior ODC management team member should be in the committee, he should also have the right profile to be in that committee. Typically, in the global companies, the HO senior management team is generally more senior and at much higher in company global hierarchy as compared to ODC management. Typically, you will find a lot many VPs in the HO and mostly engineering directors in the ODC. So you should select the right ODC persons who are experienced and mature enough to argue and win the ODC employee's case even against HO senior management who are much more senior and much higher in the hierarchy in the as compared to these ODC management people. So even if the ODC person is an engineering director, it still has the capability to argue the case of the ODC employee against the engineering VPs of the HO in the committee. Now, at the other extreme, even though it rarely happens, there are companies who are only fair to the ODC employees. They give special consideration through a quota to the in the global top roles to the ODC employees. So the ODC employees would reach the global top roles even if they are not capable or they are not yet ready for the roles. So this approach is wrong because it will harm the interests of the global company since the top management makes key strategic decisions for the company, and if a person is not ready for the role, he or she can make wrong decisions. So you should avoid quotas and follow the process I described earlier by grooming the offshore center employees to be ready for the role, and they should rise to the role only if they are deserving and the committee believes the same. So now I'll conclude by discussing a case study. It is a global product development company, $1 billion product development company with the HO in the USA and the ODC in India. The highest technical grade in that company was fellow, and only top 8 to 10 technical persons in the company reached that role. These fellows as a group used to decide the company technology strategies and so effectively they're deciding the future of the company. So the selection committee for selecting the members to the fellow group were the current fellows of the company and the engineering VPs for the different product divisions of the company. So the company was running the ODC for 10 years, but no ODC architect had ever been promoted to the fellow role. So one ODC architect had shown over the years that he was more capable than the HO architects, even some of the existing fellows in the fellow group. So his name was proposed repeatedly year after year in the selection committee for his promotion, but the committee used to vote him out each year. The reason for his getting voted out was not his capability or experience, but the typical organization structure of the company. If you look at the bottom of the screen, the product division had an engineering VP based in the HO. In the HO, he had a team and the HO architect was reporting to him. In the ODC, he had an engineering director reporting to him, and the offshore center architect was reporting to the engineering director. So both the architects belong to the same engineering VP. So both their names were proposed in the selection committee by the same engineering VP, since the HO architect was still not a fellow. So the engineering VP wanted his HO architect to be promoted first. So each year in the selection committee meeting, he used to raise the case of the HO architect first and more strongly as compared to the ODC architect. So the result was that since the proposer himself was not raising the case strongly for this ODC architect, he was invariably voted out by the committee. So the ODC architect was demoralized he was even considering quitting the organization. However, the next year, the HO architect got the required number of votes in the selection committee and he became a fellow. Interestingly, the very next year, the ODC architect was promoted by the same committee, selection committee, with maximum number of votes in the committee based on his career record. And despite the same career record, he had not been promoted for many years. The reason was obvious. It was the first time that the VP took up his case sincerely in the selection committee meeting, since he had no HO architect case to take care of. So if you look at this specific case study, an unfortunate consequence could have been that if the HO architect was never promoted to the fellow role, the ODC architect would have also never became a fellow. So the company would have lost services of a deserving fellow who had the capability to add significant value to the company's future. So the solution is, since the composition of the committee was wrong, the company had the engineering VPs of various products who were all from the HO, and the selection committee had the current fellows who were again all from the HO. So the global company top management from its own side had ensured that each product division VP is present, and they thought that he can fairly present cases of employees of his division across both the HO and ODC. But the top management overlooked the fact that all these VPs belong to HO and the committee has no member from the ODC. Instead, the committee should have had ODC members, members. It could have been the ODC head and the engineering directors to whom the ODC architect was reporting could have been a part of the committee. In that case, the ODC person would have taken up the case of this ODC architect strongly in the meeting, and that would have created a level playing field between this ODC architect and the HO architects being considered, and only the more meritorious architect would have been promoted first. In this case, the ODC architect would have even been promoted earlier than his counterpart HO architect. So this was in nutshell this presentation. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I have given the link. And if you want to purchase my book, I have given the Amazon.in and Amazon.com link. So I'm done. So Dr. Ritika, please take over.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful as well as informative session, which I am sure would have actually enlightened the participants about the actual meaning of how to take over leadership in global teams, and ensure that they can easily guide their team and take their team towards, I would say, successful makeover. I would now take up questions from the participants with your permission, sir.
Sure.
Sir, the one question we have from many participants, it is a notice that during the current pandemic times, many companies have shelved off their employees, and what has been observed is that people at the higher level are being shelved off, maybe to reduce cost, etc. So in these times, like in this pandemic time, how should such top leaders ensure that they still remain with the organization they are working for and they are still connected with?
Yeah, so typically what we have seen is that when attachment takes place, it's the middle management that faces the brunt. The top management typically remains, the architects and engineers will typically remain, but when you look at engineering directors, they face the brunt. So I believe you will have to regroom yourself, retrain yourself, and add value to the company. The way I was saying that if you can, from the ODC, if you can suggest new products, you can suggest new technologies to take up that the HO counterparts can't do, then you should be able to convince the top management that you are indispensable. So my suggestion would be you should gather more technical knowledge, more management knowledge, and then you should present that to the top management how you can add more value to the company as compared to your HO counterparts, and then you would be retained.
Thank you, sir. That was wonderful. You have wonderfully answered all author queries. And with this, I would now request Professor Huda sir to kindly present a certificate to sir as a token of remembrance for this wonderful session. Huda sir?
Ma'am, sir, I suppose there is some network issue.
I suppose, sir, there is some network issue due to which Huda sir cannot connect at the moment. I would thank you for this wonderful session, and I would request you to please accept this certificate as a token of remembrance for this wonderful session from our side. Our senior Harjinder Singh Bhatia sir is there with us, so I'll request Bhatia sir to please commemorate sir for this wonderful session with the certificate from our side.
Yeah, I take this responsibility, and I'm too glad to offer this certificate to Shri Vimal Kumar Khanna ji, who has really given very good insight on the subject and also given a guideline how one can really sit and how a person can really rise to the top, getting associated with the head office and so working and trying to be always aligned with that and claim at an appropriate time that I can be the overall group. This one. Thank you very much, Vimal Kumar Khannaji. And here on behalf of the Medicom and this webinar committee, I am having a pleasure to offer you this certificate of for your remembrance. Certificate won't really add any credentials to you, but it is just our, it is for a remembrance type of thing that you can have it. Please accept this.
Thanks a lot, Professor Bhatia. And I would also like to thank all the members who organized this session, and also it was very professional, the getting mails from Professor Hoda and then Dr. Uttam Kumar helping me out for long durations to get these things working. So thanks a lot. It was highly professionally done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think your book also will really give a real guide for everyone to really how to set his goal to reach at the top.
Yes, sir, that is very true. I thank Bhatia sir, and I again thank Vimal sir. It was a wonderful session, and it was wonderful to have you here, sir, with us for this particular session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, I come to the end of today's session.